Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update with information on various programs and policies that are affecting Westchester County as we are here on Monday, July 25th. We will have today, our special guest is the mayor of the village of Tuckahoe, Omira Andino, and she will report on Tuckahoe goings-on and some of the activities of her administration in that village. As you know, at each one of these updates, we try to ask one of the supervisors of a town, mayor of a village or a city to join us so that you get a little thumbnail sketch week after week of the many different parts of Westchester County, so many different unique communities, each one with their own issues and priorities, and each one with those things that attract people to want to come and live and make that area their hometown in this region. So we're very happy to have Mayor Andino with us. She'll be on in just a second. I'll have Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins joining me for parts of the update. We are going to talk about the health issues that are on the top of our list: monkeypox, COVID, and also polio. There's a case in Rockland. We'll address that issue while we're together. We'll give you an update of where we are with the various parks and recreation facilities, our beaches, our pools, our golf. We'll talk a little bit about our continuing efforts to try to deal with the inflationary pressures that we have here in the country at this moment in time, some of the actions we've taken that are underway. You will notice that the pump prices are dropping a little bit at the gas lines, but there's still other issues in the society where prices are there, and we're trying to do what we can to address them. And then we'll also touch on 9/11 monument and the related plans that we have for the memorial that will come up in September 11th, which is less than 2 months away. Time is moving very quickly on our standard. But first, we'll introduce our guest for today. Omira Andino is mayor of Tuckahoe Village and has been for the last year. She came in 2021. She had previously served as a village trustee for a period of time before that, and she is a not-for-profit executive in her own right, and she's taken those managerial skills and brought them to this village of over 7,000 people. For those of you who are familiar with the structure of local government, and that's not many of us, villages are a concentrated population portion in a number of towns, and they've been incorporated as a separate local government with local authority. The local village board has the same authority that a town board does outside of the village to make decisions on zoning and planning and the delivery of basic services: police, fire, sanitation, snow removal, and localized recreation. Tuckahoe is one of two villages that fall within the town of Eastchester, Bronxville being the other, and there is an unincorporated section. This is not all on the final exam, but it is part of what those of us in government have to deal with, because we have posited that Westchester County needs to be a good partner to these governments, because it is the mayor of a village, it is the mayor of a city or the supervisor of a town that has the responsibility to lead that portion of the government in the county, and the county wants to be, hopefully, a good partner. So our partner is the leader of the village of Tuckahoe. We're very happy to have her with us here, Omira Andino. Madam Mayor, thank you for joining us. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to our county executive for the invitation. And I also want to give a special shout out to Kyle McIntyre, the intergovernmental relations aide, and he, I learned today, is a resident, lifelong resident of Tuckahoe, born and raised there. Did you know that? I did. So that's pretty cool. So thank you, Kyle, for all of your help. He's helped me with our scheduling and has been very accommodating to make this day happen. The county executive talked a little bit about the demographics in Tuckahoe. We are located in Lower Westchester, bordering Bronxville. I'm from Brooklyn, so it took me a while to realize that Bronxville and Tuckahoe are a part of Eastchester. The two villages are also a part of the town of Eastchester. According to the 2020 census, we are now at a little under 7,100 people, compared to 2010 when the census had us at 6,500 people. So we are growing. There are many people coming up from the city, and a lot of new families are moving into Tuckahoe. It's also, some of you may or may not know that we were once known as the marble capital of the world, where much of the marble that came from our area was used to build the New York Public Library, the Capitol building, as well as the the Washington Monument. So just some tidbit information about Tuckahoe. We have had a tumultuous few years, as many municipalities have had. We rejoined the consortium of the CDBG grants, the Community Development Block Grants, in 2020, May 2020. And since then, we have had a number of grants awarded to us. And I'll name a few. We had upgrades to our Main Street Park, where we have a marvelous basketball court as well as our tennis court and playground. We were awarded $175,000 for upgrades to that park in 21. And in the coming years, we're also have been awarded some grants for sewer repairs and ADA ramp and sidewalk improvements. So we're really grateful that we have this partnership with the county and we're able to tap into that money. Because we rejoined the consortium, that also made the Tuckahoe Housing Authority eligible to receive grants as well. And so we're happy to report that they were awarded $400,000 in the course of this year and next year for upgrades to the Tuckahoe Housing Authority units. So we're really grateful for that, and we thank the legislature and the county for that support. We are also really proud of the fact that we have invested $1 million into the paving of the streets last year. So if you go into Tuckahoe, it's nice and smooth, Ken. You can come visit us. We've had several upgrades to our infrastructure, our traffic lights, and our sewer system. So we're getting a lot of work done that has been aging over the course of the decades. One project that's really dear to my heart is the upgrades to our tennis courts. While it's not part of the CDGB grants projects, we have put some money aside to make sure that we are able to provide the tennis courts as an option for kids who otherwise may not have the option of learning how to play tennis. And so the county has been really instrumental, the county planning department has been really instrumental in helping us to design it and to bid for it. So we are truly grateful to your team, George. They've been really amazing. Our village administrator talks about how resourceful and helpful they've been. So we thank you for that. And it's really dear to my heart because we have been using our tennis courts in partnership with the ECAP program and in partnership with the BTNNS Foundation, founded by Brian Simoniola, who's working with Marianne Bateman. And they've started some tennis clinics for the children that are getting some supports out of the ECAP program. And they've done so for the last 2 years. So they're super excited about having a brand new tennis court for the kids. And I'm excited for them because it gives children an opportunity who may not have otherwise had the opportunity to play tennis. Another exciting project that is coming up is the Concordia Conservatory and the Tuckahoe Schools is working with the Cornerstone Children's Center to provide tuition-free music lessons for the children in the Universal Pre-K program. So I just find that, exposure to children is really important so that they can find their way in the arts and sports. A lot of partnerships we've had with government on all levels. I want to thank the County Executive's Office, Senator Shelley Mayer, our Assemblywoman Amy Paulin, our County Legislator Damon Marr, as well as our Congressman Jamal Bowman, who've all at some point either provided us with funding. We're really struggling with flood mitigation, as are many municipalities, and Jamal Bowman and the county have come in with the Army Corps of Engineers and begun the process of at least evaluating what is going to be needed in order to provide some relief to residents who are really struggling during just basic storms. We've also passed some legislation in the last year. We've had a very busy year. We've passed historic preservation laws in order to protect our historic landmarks. And we've established a historic preservation commission who just recently put in a recommendation for one of our sites to be designated as a landmark. And so the village, this would be coming before the village on August 8th to vote on. That will be our first. We've also passed affordable housing local laws. And just our last meeting, we've just passed a resolution for an election proposition to move March village elections to November. So we've been busy on the legislation front. And then some other really cool things that are happening. We've had some filming happening in Tuckahoe. in the last, it's over the years we have, but in the last year or two, we've brought in around $165,000 in revenue, which is really great to offset those taxes. You know, you heard the county executive talk about what a strain the economy is on families right now. And so it's always good for us to get grants and new revenue streams to help offset the burdens that the families are experiencing. So we've had The Watcher filmed in Tuckahoe, Pose, FBI's Most Wanted, and a couple years back, Stephen King's Lisey's Story. We've had several new businesses come in. Our commercially zoned area, Marbledale Avenue, has a lot of new construction happening, and the hotel that is there now is also bringing in a good amount of tax revenue to help offset, again, taxes. So we're getting a lot of things done. We have a long to-do list, so we have much more work to do. But among some of those things that we want to accomplish is having charging stations for our electric vehicles, and we are working with NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, who has provided us with a grant for 18 charging stations with 36 points for charging for cars. And some fun things. So we have movie night. Everyone is welcome, not just Tuckahoeans. We have movie night on this Friday. We're going to be showing Happy Feet, and it's a really family-friendly movie. You want to come, Ken? It has a great soundtrack, so that's why I love it. We've had Cone with the Cop. Tuckahoe is celebrating 120 years this year, and so we had a really wonderful fireworks show with cupcakes and crafts for kids and yoga for all. We have National Night Out, partnering with Eastchester and Bronxville's police departments on August 2nd, and all are welcome to come between 5 and 8 p.m. And all of this, you know, everyone's talking about the COVID and how COVID has really impacted us, and there are still the residual effects of it. And because, you know, we have struggled so much, it's been such really a blessing to have the CDGB program help partners in government at all levels, even the federal government, who provided us with some funding during the COVID crisis. And so because of all of that, we were still able to come under the budget tax cap. So we were really excited and proud that we did the work. And really, I can't say any of this is possible without the village departments and all of the department heads and the employees under the leadership of our village administrator, David Burke, who, no matter how much we want him to do, always says, okay, we'll figure it out. So a big thank you to David Burke and all of the village departments, the police, the fire, the DPW, and the library. And we also have an amazing group of volunteers. You know, none of this could happen without people who volunteer their time and their talent on planning and zoning and sign and awning boards, and the Historic Preservation Beautification Committee, and a community fund who really helps to help fund a lot of the projects that we otherwise may not be able to do. And I want to give a special acknowledgement to the Village Board of Trustees, who have just worked so cooperatively and are just really diligent people in their own right. So I want to say thank you to Deputy Mayor Renee Howell and our trustees, Darrell Taylor, Kara Cronin, and Nicole Engelbert, for all of your hard work all year long. Thank you, George. And congratulations on being named Best Politician by Westchester Magazine. It's pretty cool. And also to our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. Thank you. Whenever I call, they answer the phone. I'm so excited about that. No matter, usually I don't call too late, but whenever I call, they usually answer the phone. So thank you, George, for allowing me to come and boast a bit about Tuckahoe, and for demonstrating that we're a small but mighty village. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That's Mayor Omaira Andino of the Village of Tuckahoe. And Tuckahoe is a wonderful community. I had the pleasure of representing it in the state Senate before becoming county executive. And I have a chance to see some of the great places there are to eat there. Spice Village will get you great Indian cuisine, and Stevens Green, you can tilt the elbow right by the Crestwood train station, and Nutmeg is right on Main Street, and everybody knows Angelina. So there's a lot of reasons to go to Tuckahoe. Depot Plaza has a little farmer's market on Sundays that you can stop by and buy some produce, and there's a little pasta there too. So there's lots of good reasons to go to Tuckahoe. And you'll see O'Meara out in the community. Wave hi to her and her colleagues on the village board. Thank you for being with us today. And we will continue to have various mayors and supervisors join us here to give you an update on what's happening in their communities as well. So as we get down to the issues that we want to cover from the county, we'll deal with our health issues. You know, since the COVID crisis broke in March of 2020, and that's almost 2.5 years now in duration, we have become much more sensitized to everything that deals with health outbreaks. And in some ways, prior to COVID, we probably as a society didn't really take seriously when there were outbreaks of swine flu and various strangely named diseases that came through, and they affected a certain amount of people. But now we're very focused, having gone through the COVID experience. We're not out of the COVID experience, but when we hear about monkeypox and now a case of polio, we want to give you an update of where we are with those things so that you'll have an idea of what's happening and how we are trying to deal with it straightforwardly. First of all, with monkeypox, I've described this a couple of times before. We'll do it again. Monkeypox is a virus, and it's a virus that creates rash and lesions on a person's skin. It is not usually a fatal disease, although any disease, if it's impacts a person with a compromised immunity system or other underlying health issues, can become a much more serious disease. But it is a painful disease to have, and it does spread, it does communicate from one person to the other. Unlike COVID, I've made this point before, COVID is an airborne related virus, so you can catch it without having to have direct interaction with another person. Monkeypox is transmitted skin-to-skin contact. So when an infected area on one person touches another person, then there's the potential for that infection to transfer to the other individual. Generally, we're concerned about intimate social circles of contact where the disease can more easily be transferred from person to person. But because it is skin to skin and not airborne, the widespread nature of it is much, much different. We have reported, as of today, 27 active cases of monkeypox in Westchester County. I should hasten to add, none of those individuals are in life-threatening situations, and all of them are in some level of being treated and recuperating with their diseases. But that's 27 cases. When we talk about COVID, and I'll touch on the statistics a little bit more in a few seconds, we currently have 3,448 cases of COVID infection, active COVID infection that we're aware of, and there may be more, which we're not aware of as people test in home and don't necessarily report into the state tracking system. But there's a big gap between having 27 cases of one disease and 3,448 cases of a different disease. So we want to keep that into proportion. However, monkeypox can be treated with a vaccine. That vaccine is a 2-dose administered vaccination. There's a 28-day period of time in between, and it has been identified at this point as appropriate for those 18 years of age and older. Now, we have a different set of protocols for COVID, but the bottom line right now, Westchester County's Department of Health has vaccinated almost 200 people in our White Plains Clinic, which has been open over the last 2 weeks for vaccination purposes, and that effort has been an outreach effort to vulnerable communities within Westchester County to try to identify those individuals that may have been exposed to monkeypox and therefore for whom the vaccine would be most important. We have now received from New York State 4,540 doses of vaccination material for monkeypox. Now, we were dealing a couple of weeks ago with 450 units, then it jumped up to somewhat under 1,000. Now we're at 4,540 doses to be administered in Westchester County. Some obviously have been administered. And that's a very important number as we try to get ahead of what might be the transmission of the disease from an individual to another individual. Westchester County Department of Health has a clinic here in downtown White Plains at 134 Court Street, and there on Mondays from 12 to 3 and on Wednesdays from 4 to 7, we administer by appointment monkeypox vaccinations. If you feel that you may have been exposed to monkeypox, or if you're concerned about that vulnerability, you can call us, and we have a hotline, 995-8900, 995-8900. You can call the Westchester County Health Department, and you can set an appointment. You just can't walk into the clinic, but you have to set an appointment, come in and get a vaccination for monkeypox on those 2 time frames every Monday, as long as vaccination material lasts, 12 to 3 on Mondays, 4 to 7 on Wednesdays here in downtown White Plains. Now, we have been dealing with some of our medical health facilities, and we mentioned very early in the outset that we were working with St. John's Riverside Hospital in Yonkers, with the Open Door Neighborhood Health Organization that's headquartered in Ossining with branches around the county, and that also we had some work with White Plains Hospital and Westchester Medical Center. Westchester Medical Center, of course, on the Grasslands campus in Valhalla, is a tertiary care facility. It provides tremendous services across a range of things. They were the main partner with the state and the county in the vaccination for COVID at the Westchester County Center, which vaccinated at one point up to 2,200 people a day in COVID vaccinations out of the county center. That, of course, is no longer in effect. But they are now setting up a drive-through vaccine tent on their campus. It's the actual same tent that they use for the COVID. As they're getting ready to set up appointments, if you cannot come to downtown White Plains for vaccination, the drive-through option may be a more convenient option for you, and you should give a call to the Westchester Medical Center, their number that they've established to schedule a monkeypox appointment now, monkeypox vaccination appointment, 326-2060, 326-2060, and that's at Westchester Medical Center. Now, obviously, we're speaking primarily to Westchester County residents, but people who may be watching this tape may come from any area in and around our region. And we want to remind you that the Westchester Medical Facility is a tertiary care facility which really serves a multiple number of Hudson Valley counties. So if you're watching this message and you're from Putnam County, if you're from Dutchess County or Orange County or Rockland County, those are the 4 nearest counties to Westchester, by all means, you too should feel free to call 326-2060, Westchester Medical Center, and sign up for monkeypox vaccination if you so see fit. Each of the public health departments in the other counties are also making provisions. My colleagues, the county executives, Ed Day in Rockland County, Steve Newhouse in Orange County, Mary Ellen Odell in Putnam County, and Marcus Molinaro in Dutchess County, they are all making preparations through their departments of health to deal with this crisis. But the Westchester Medical Center, because it is a regional facility, opens up their doors to all in the region. And of course, the vaccination material that we get is coming from New York State. They are interested in vaccinating anybody from the state of New York to try to reduce any potential for this virus to spread. So we give you the number again, 326-2060. If you're watching this from outside Westchester County, 914-326-2060 to set an appointment for monkeypox vaccinations. And this site will be up as long as vaccine material is available. That also applies to our local Westchester County health clinic, and we obviously appreciate very much the efforts that have been made by New York State Department of Health. Governor Kathy Hochul has been very clear that she is behind helping us get access to these, and we've had the support of our legislative delegations in both the state Senate and the state Assembly. So we're appreciative as a county government that we have partners in the state, even as we partner with villages like Tuckahoe, that we have the partnership in the state as well to provide monkeypox vaccinations. Keep in mind, again, that it's a skin-to-skin transfer, and if you fall into one of those vulnerable communities, an intimate social circle, where you may have been exposed to monkeypox, this is not a disease that you can test in advance for. You usually test once a rash appears, once a symptom appears. And once that happens, you might as well go from testing directly to vaccination and be vaccinated against the disease. But you would know your own circumstances. When they do test, just so we know for monkeypox, they swab the rash or the lesion, and then they put it out to test to determine if you have monkeypox or not from that. Usually you get information back in about 48 hours from that. All positive cases of a county resident must be reported by the county health department for contact tracing to determine who else might have been exposed to the individual who tests positive. So do realize that is a part, we learned this from COVID, contact tracing, who have you had recent contact with, so that they too can be vaccinated and protected from this disease. It is a rare disease. It is not a disease that has caused a great degree of fatality, but it is serious. The federal government will be making some announcements about monkeypox in the days to come, and we will try to address it. Let me also address the other issue that came up. I'll be joined by Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive. He's going to talk a little bit about what's coming up with COVID. COVID is not old hat. COVID is by no means gone from our society as a factor. He'll talk a little bit about vaccinations. I'll talk a little bit about some of the numbers. But I want to address the case of polio that we heard about in the last week that occurred in Rockland County. We in our county health department are monitoring the circumstances in Rockland County, and we're all looking, both the Rockland and the Westchester and the other neighboring counties, we're looking to see if this is an isolated incident or if this somehow triggers more cases to come. It's important to understand polio is rare in the United States, and that's mostly because we have all been vaccinated from a fairly young age. Those of us within that cohort that were born in the 1950s were the first generation to be vaccinated for polio, and polio has been as close to eradicated in this country as can be. But this particular individual from Rockland County, as they have determined, was exposed to someone else who was vaccinated outside of the United States, and vaccinations outside of the United States does involve a live oral polio vaccine as part of what protects you in another country. And therefore, because this individual was not vaccinated for polio, they became susceptible and contracted the disease. We do not use live oral vaccines in Westchester County. We don't use it in the United States of America because of what's just happened. It can cause the disease in susceptible people who've not been vaccinated. So where we are now is very simple. If you have been vaccinated for polio, at this stage of the game, you have nothing to fear. You do not need to get a booster or any other additional action on polio. This is now isolated to a single case, and we're waiting to see if there is something more widespread in it. But the people who are vulnerable in terms of polio in our society today are those that have not been vaccinated, and most all of us, because of mandatory requirements for certain vaccinations, childhood diseases, which many of us have already gone through, the vast majority of us are protected from getting polio from our vaccination status. But if you are unvaccinated for polio, then you should be very much aware that we need to move in a direction to help you. There's no announcements yet about how that's going to be handled. If it's going to be necessary, if this is a one-off case and it stays that way, then we'll take this off our radar screen. We'll deal with monkeypox, and of course, we'll deal with COVID. Ken is going to talk a little bit about our vaccination policies. Let me just mention quickly, the most recent COVID information that we have shows that there continues to be a relatively stable amount of active cases at any point in time. The number as of yesterday was 3,448 active cases. That number is down a little bit from a week ago, where we had 3,600 active cases. If you go back 2 weeks ago, we were about 3,200 cases, and that oscillation has been pretty consistent now for about 3 months. Somewhere north or south of 3,000 cases. Sometimes it gets down to the 2,500 range, sometimes up to 3,500. And these are people who've tested positive for the disease and have not yet gone through a full 10-day period of time disease-free, in which case it is determined that you're not then communicative of the disease to somebody else. We still require isolation, and we still encourage vaccination across the board. We've made no plans to have mandatory masking or mandatory vaccination. Even with the situation we have now, we are in the summertime, we're having outdoor venues to the greater extent, which we think reduces the potential for spread, and we'll talk in a few seconds about how much normal we've been able to return to in our county. However, there are still opportunities for us to vaccinate to protect against COVID, and Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, will go over some of that with you now. Ken.
Thanks, George. As County Executive pointed out, COVID is still with us, and we have specific vaccination clinics for children ages 6 months to 5 years old throughout the summer. Keeping in mind, once again, that there's a 28-day difference between them, so you have to have those 2 shots over 28 days. The county health department is offering free pediatric Moderna COVID-19 vaccines by appointment for children ages 6 months to 5 years old on Fridays throughout the summer from 9 a.m. to noon at the county clinic in White Plains at 134 Court Street. And contrary to popular belief, young children can and do get COVID-19, and unfortunately, some become very sick. Now that we can give our youngest among us the same protection that's available to the rest of us, we really are strongly encouraging every parent and guardian of a young child to get their little ones fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Remember, those Moderna vaccines are given 28 days apart, and also on Fridays from 1 to 3 p.m. The county also offers county COVID-19 vaccinations to everyone of every age group, including booster shots and those that need that. Again, 1 to 3, and those are by appointment as well on the county website. The clinic at 134 Court Street, you need to go to for an appointment to health.westchestergov.com, and that address is at the bottom of the screen. Select vaccine and clinic information drop-down and click the link for the vaccine that you would like. More appointments are always added, so please check back frequently. I know that over the weekend, I looked for some individuals for booster shots, and they were in the middle of August. So again, continue to check to see if there's availability of vaccine appointments. Joy.
Thanks very much, Ken. And Ken will be back in a second to touch on a couple of other issues as we try to touch on a wide range of issues here in Westchester County. Now, I mentioned that we have tried, I think the whole of society has tried, to put COVID in a proper place in our lives. 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, everything we did was affected by this outbreak of COVID. Since vaccinations came along in the very beginning of 2021, things have changed. We've been able to make people more resistant from serious illness and sickness related to COVID. We probably have right now about 160 people that are hospitalized out of the 3,400 individuals that I've just alluded to that have a case of COVID. So we're probably running in round numbers in the 5% range of people that are hospitalized because of COVID. And I think, as I mentioned before, we are about under a 1% fatality rate for everybody that contracted COVID. So if there are 285,000 as a round number, total infections of COVID since the beginning of the pandemic, the fatality numbers is around 2,750, slightly higher than that, closer to approaching the 2,800 mark. But with those thoughts in mind, given the fact that we're in an outdoor setting during the summertime, we have gone on to try to have as normal a summer as we can. As a society, we're back. Sections of the society that were shut down in the late spring of 2020, things that were not available to us over the summer of 2020. Playland Park was closed. We had none of the ethnic festivals in either 2020 or 2021. All of those things have been put back into play for 2022, and we're happy to report there have been no indicated circumstances of any mass COVID outbreaks because of the activities we've had. Just this past weekend, we had our annual reinstituted Italian-American Heritage Festival. We've already had heritage festivals for the Hispanic community, the African-American community, the Irish community, the Albanian-American community, the Polish community. All of those festivals have been held already, primarily at Kensico Dam Plaza, a couple of them at Ridge Road Park. The Asian American community, all those have been done. We still have a couple coming up in the next few weeks. We have India, South Asian Heritage Festival. We have one coming up for the Jewish community, one for the Muslim community. But with every one of those cases, as we've had them, we have had good turnout. I think probably impacted more by the baking heat and temperatures over the last weekend than it was any concerns about COVID. But we are continuing to try to operate our parks and our recreation for the summer as a county and the local governments as well with as much inclusion and involvement. So we have 4 pools that are open at Saxon Woods in White Plains, Tibbetts Brook in Yonkers, Sprain Ridge in Yonkers, and also Wilson Woods in Mount Vernon. We have 2 beaches that are open on the weekend, Glen Island and New Rochelle, and Croton Point Park in Croton-on-Hudson. and they're both open over the course of the summertime and as we head toward Labor Day. I should point out we've had some issues related to Wilson Woods Pool. I mentioned we had to close the wave pool. There were some concerns, and the initial report to us was there were some problems with the pool, with piping under the pool that could be fixed, and we were hoping to be able to reopen the pool this year in the 2022 season. We now know that is not possible. The problems that we have discovered are such that the wave pool will not open for the 2022 season. This is a great disappointment. Growing up in Mount Vernon, knowing what Wilson Woods was as pre-wave pool, but it is an essential place for people to go and get cooled off, particularly when they don't have other options. But we're unable to reopen the wave pool this year, and there will be some major reconstruction that will happen once we get past Labor Day and the rest of the Wilson Woods complex closes. Now, there are still 3 other water features. There's an aqua spray area that kids get a big kick out of. We have a little lazy river that you can maneuver on. So Wilson Woods, that portion of the aquatic program continues to be open, and we have suspended any cost at Wilson Woods week-long. So at the other pools and beaches, we have no cost from Monday to Thursday based on our inflation-fighting efforts. At Wilson Woods, it is free to enter at all times. And again, we're getting a certain amount of attendance for the remaining aquatic situations, but we now have a major construction project at Wilson Woods. You may remember, if you followed our county government in our very first year in office in 2018, we had to look at structural problems that existed at the Spray Ridge pools. The one, there was a kiddie activities pool that was opened in 2017, and there were problems, and we had to shut it down and completely redo that project. And the other pool had to be completely redone, the adult competition pool, and it took us out of the 2018 season. But we did the work that was necessary, and by 2019, we were able to reopen both pools, and they've stayed open in 2019, 2020, 2021, and now in 2022 at Sprain Ridge. So while it's a disappointment at Wilson Woods, we report the news as we have it. I would be much happier if I could announce that the pool was going to open this weekend, the wave pool in Wilson Woods, but we can't do that. It is not in a position that it must be fixed and repaired. We also point out that we're undergoing the second and final year of a 2-year redo of the Playland pool, and that we expect will be opened in time for next season, next year. So that will be back online, and we hope, we'll find out as we get into the construction phase, that once we hit Labor Day and we shut down the Wilson Woods wave pool, that we'll be able to do the work necessary on that pool that will allow us to reopen it also for next season. That is our hope. We'll find out what construction professionals tell us, when they can get fully into the pool and get underneath it and see what kinds of problems exist and how it can be fixed. The Wilson Woods wave pool is 20 years old, and I'm told that that is close to the completed life of a pool of that size and scope. Having just redone the Sprain Ridge pool a couple of years ago, we're doing the Playland pool now. We know that we must make capital investment in our infrastructure. And if we don't do that, then we're going to have problems like this come up. And in some ways, we're catching up for years of lack of investment in those capital projects. But as you've seen around the county-owned facilities, whether it's repaving Mamaroneck Avenue from White Plains into Mamaroneck, or repaving Theodore Fremd, which is a county road in the city of Rye, whether it's fixing the North County Trailway or the South County Trailway, completing the Bronx River pathway through the Scarsdale-Hartsdale corridor, fixing the Miller House. We've talked about these things over and over again. It must get repetitious for you to hear them. But these are major capital projects that had to be undertaken if we wanted to protect our assets, and we do. And we've been able to accomplish those things. So I put the Wilson Woods wave pool in the same category. It is disappointing to report this to you, but we expect that that project will be undertaken and completed. And unless we know otherwise, when we will tell you honestly, we would hope that the Wilson Woods wave pool will be open for next year. Now, we've made the decision to make the pools and the one beach that's open during the week, which is Glen Island, to make them free Monday through Thursday. Accordingly, we are getting some pretty strong attendance over the course of a week. Plus the weather, which doesn't work so well for our golf numbers, works exceedingly well for our pools and beaches. And as everybody knows, this time of the year, with today's, I think, the 7th straight day of 90-plus degree weather, people rush to be cooled off. The best way to cool off out in public is in in a pool or on a beach. And so we've had tremendous attendance jumps from where we were almost double the amount of guests over the course of the last week, and year-to-date a doubling at Tibbetts in Yonkers, at Saxon Woods Pool in White Plains. Big number jump. Saxon Woods a year ago, 5,500 year-to-date visitors. This year, year-to-date, 13,000 visitors within this past week. Not a year-to-date number, that's a weekly number, forgive me. The year-to-date number at Saxon Woods a year ago was 24,000 visitors. This year, 49,000 visitors. And those numbers are consistent with what you'd see in Sprain, 3,800 a year ago for the week, 11,200 for this week, same year. Aggregate last year, year-to-date, 17,000 visitors, 37,000 visitors year-to-date. And even with the loss of the wave pool, while attendance is a little off at Wilson Woods, it's not tremendously off. Year-to-date last year, 12,700 visitors. Year-to-date this year, even without the pool, wave pool, 11,400 visitors. So that's very impressive. Glen Island, we did not have fully back in working order because of its use as a testing site for COVID back in 2020. It was not fully on for the full beach season in 2021, so we have big numbers there. 18,000 people have visited, 4,000 this past week, and we continue to do well at Croton Point Beach, which is on the Hudson side up in the northern part of the county, and that beach is not open during the week. It's open just on the weekends. There's some construction work going on in and around it. All of those numbers are good numbers. Our golf courses still have very high numbers of golfers, even in this heat. I say this with tongue-in-cheek because I'm sure if you're a golfer or you have a friend who's a golfer, I have friends who are golfers, I don't golf, they are pretty maniacal about getting out on a golf course. And the public golf courses are affordable for people, and for the sake of people that will start early in the morning or go out late in the afternoon, go out in the middle of the day. It was pretty hot this past week. We still had, last week, 1,000 rounds of golf at Dunwoody and Yonkers, 1,400 rounds of golf in Saxon Woods, which is in Scarsdale on the golf side of it. Sprain Lake had almost 1,500 rounds of golf. Almost 1,500 at Maple Moor, which is in the south end of White Plains, 1,200 at Mohansick, and up at Hudson Hills, almost 1,000 rounds of golf. So they're off from last year because this comparable week was much hotter this year than it was a year ago, but we're seeing a tremendous amount of response in the golf program. So golf is down a little bit when comparing year over year because of the temperatures of the past week. We'll see what the next week holds for us, but it is out there as a recreation, and we don't do calculations of how many people use the South County Trailway or the Bronx River Pathway or the North County Trailway. We don't count exactly how many people walk into Cranberry Lake Preserve in the town of North Castle, or how many people go to Lenoir Preserve in Yonkers. And we also have Ward Pound Ridge and the Lewisboro Pound Ridge area. We've got Mountain Lakes. We've got Blue Mountain, Graham Hills, where you'll see guys on their mountain bikes doing things that I would never do at this stage of my life. But really enjoying this tremendous park system that we have. And this is why when we talk about what our strategies were with COVID, when we did things like have masking, when we did try to push as many people to get vaccinations as possible, we wanted to protect them so that we could have a more normal life. We didn't do it to try to rule people's lives. That is an irrelevant argument. What is a relevant argument is if you're safe from the disease. If you don't get the disease, then you can go out into the society. You don't have to isolate. You can go out and enjoy these parks and have the fun that you should have during these summer months. We're going to turn around, and all our complaining about the hot weather is going to turn into how cold it is outside. It's inevitable. And look, we're New Yorkers, born and bred New Yorkers. New Yorkers complain. We're not soft-spoken. We boo the team when they don't perform well, and we argue with each other over the minutest point of disagreement. But we're passionate as the people that we are growing up in this area, whether it's Westchester or elsewhere in the metropolitan area, and we're trying very hard to have a normal life. And I think the use of our pools, the use of our beaches, the use of our golf courses, our various trails and so forth is one of the great advantages of living in this county with what the assets of this county are. We prioritize those assets, and frankly, these assets are part of the quality of life by which people who live here decide that they want to stay living here. And it is in part what attracts people to come here. They come because there's a good school system. It's not perfect, but it's a good school system. We have beautiful river, beautiful sound, beautiful reservoir lakes in the middle of the county. We have all kinds of actions, art, actions and recreation actions. Here in Westchester County, the things that we've talked about with parks and recreations, we're not even talking about every night in some 1 or 2 or 3 communities in this county. You have a free band concert, a free concert of some sort. Tonight is Monday, so Mamaroneck Town has one, Pelham has one, weather permitting, and all across the county, night after night. This is a quality of life, and don't think it exists this way every place, because it doesn't. And when people talk about, well, I'm leaving Westchester for these reasons, well, some people do leave. They reach a certain point in their life where other things are more important. But there are a lot of people who come into Westchester. They buy the house that you put on the market for a reason, because of this quality of life, and having this recreation is part of that quality of life. So it is not a nice to have, as I remember hearing an argument made. It is an essential part of what makes us economically a viable area. That is one of the reasons why we understand and we treat with proper gravity and weight the inflation cycle that we see. The cycle is something that's happening across the nation. We leave to the president and to our national officials to explain the problem and explain what they're doing about it in the macro level. From a local level, a county government level, we have decided to make certain things less expensive, to try to give a helping hand. When I go to a senior center and I have a senior come up to me and said, I'm so grateful that you've made the buses free and the paratransit free during the summer. That would cost me X amount of dollars, and I now have saved that money. That is a major situation. The buses, Beeline bus system is free. It has been free since June 1st, which is over a month and a half ago. It will remain free for another month and a half until September 5th, including September 5th, which is Labor Day. And we encourage you, if you normally use the bus system, continue to use it. If you haven't used the bus system, give it a try. Look at what you might do that might put you on a county bus. You'll see how clean they are, how well maintained they are, how friendly the drivers are. TW Local 100 drivers are driving. Liberty Lines is our private sector partner in delivering the Beeline bus system. You'll see buses now that run cleaner. You'll see buses that are all electric, some that are hybrid electric. It is a new day in transportation with what we're trying to accomplish here in the county. Buses are free. I've mentioned already going into pools Monday through Thursday at 3 of our pools are free. At the 4th pool, it's free all the time. And at our 2 beaches, they're free during the middle of the week. We also have taken other measures to try to deal with it. I mentioned before that we've given an additional $700,000 to Feeding Westchester so that they could provide more food at the various food pantries and food distribution centers. Over the last few weeks, I have gone out to Hope Community Center in New Rochelle to see the people that are online taking benefit of the food distribution in New Rochelle. I've been to the Ridgeway Alliance Church Food Pantry where they give out food on Tuesdays and Fridays. They have the Larchmont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force. Those are just a couple around the county. There are them all over from Peekskill, Yonkers, all across the county. And we've given an additional amount of money to help more people be able to receive food for free to try to deal with the cost of food. We don't control anything about interstate commerce, but at the user end, if we can make more food available, hopefully that's a helpful situation. We have made commuter parking free at the 2 lots that Westchester County owns, parking lots that are adjacent to Metro North train stations. They both happen to be here in this White Plains area. The White Plains train station, which is the 3rd busiest station in the Metro North system, it's only Grand Central Station and Stamford that have more people go through it every day than White Plains. We have plenty of reverse commuters, and we have a parking lot that is adjacent to the Bronx River Parkway, just to the east of the county center, and extends down into close walking proximity to the White Plains train station. That parking lot has been free since the 1st of July. It's not quite 4 weeks ago, and will continue to be free through the month of August, so that where you might pay a normal commutation fare for parking to go on the train, it is free in that location. Get on at the White Plains Metro North Station, and just above it at the North White Plains Metro North Station, we have an extensive lot. Again, it's adjacent to the Bronx River Parkway. It is slightly west of the train tracks, but you have easy access onto the platform at North White Plains. So that's also a Harlem Line location. And it's important to note, White Plains and North White Plains are both express stops on the Harlem Line. So people who are further north, if you can come down the Bronx River Parkway and park in either the North White or the White Plains locations, you can commute out of those stations and pay nothing for your parking over the next 2 months. We've made that available to you. We have before the Board of Legislators for their deliberation a plan to eliminate the sales tax on residential energies for the quarter beginning in December 1st through February 28th. Now, if we did that now, most of us are not getting oil or electricity or natural gas to heat our homes. Right now, our need to heat our homes is very low. We don't need to tap into the heating system. But that will change when we come to the wintertime, and so we're looking at a plan to reduce eliminate the county portion of sales tax, which is, in round numbers, about half of what you pay in sales tax overall. As I posited, if you pay $1,000 for the sake of this discussion of delivery of oil, you're going to pay something like $80 in taxation, on sales taxation on that sale, and half of that would be cut off because the county is not taking the sales tax portion of it. So you would save $40 for a $1,000 delivery of oil, where you would have paid $1,080, you pay $1,040. That $40 savings is the county taking that into account. We have to act within a certain time frame. The Board of Legislators is doing the deliberation. When they've come to firm decision and approval, if that is their belief, we think it will be, then we'll report it to the state, and the state will put the wheels in motion to put that into effect in December, and we'll certainly announce that on a more robust basis. For those people that are looking for job opportunities and they want to sit for civil service exam covers police, fire, a host of different administrative positions, and not just for Westchester County jobs, but anywhere for any government in Westchester County. There's normally a fee for sitting for an exam, whether you do well or you don't, whether you can get picked from the list or not, you still pay the fee to take the exam. We have rescinded the fee. So you're doing it for zero cost, which gives you an ability now not to hesitate if you want to try to better your life. Take the exam, see if you can qualify at some level. We've done those things. We're in discussions with Westchester Community College leadership. We expect to have an announcement a little bit later this week on the budget, which is always adopted in the summertime. And as we've dialogued with the Community College Board, they, as well as we, are sensitive to this same moment. So when it's time for us to make the announcement as to what's going to happen, I think you're going to see that type of policy as well in what we do with tuition at the community college, but we'll save that in greater detail for another day. There are things that we have to deal with every day. We talk about reducing the cost of government. We have cut county property taxes for 3 years in a row. That is a fact. That is not imagination. We have seen a reduction in crime in Westchester County. There are incidents of crime that happen every day. No one can say there is no crime, there's no violent crime in Westchester County, but it is significantly lower today than it was 4 years ago, and that is because of the work that our police does, our probation department, our correction department interface with local police, and particularly community policing. So if you can reduce the cost of government and the cost of living through taxes and through these efforts that we're making, if you see a reduction in crime, if you see us working very hard to deal with the healthcare issues that are around us, and we go ahead to do other areas of public policy that are important, then we're doing our job. And that's what we're trying to convey in these updates. So we've done something which was announced with great fanfare last year. It was an effort to recognize, at the area where we recognize those that we lost on 9/11, additional memorializing for those people that we have lost who worked at the 9/11 site and over time lost their lives to related illnesses. And Ken is going to give you the reminder announcement of that. And then we're going to ask him again one more time to play Weatherman and tell us a little bit about the weather that we're facing right now. Ken Jenkins.
Thanks, George. The 9/11 Related Illnesses Memorial Committee is soliciting names, and it's important because there's so many people, as county executive just mentioned, that worked on the pile down at the World Trade Center site. They wanted to make sure that we recognize everyone that is from Westchester that was lost for a 9/11 related illness. So we're looking for those names, and it's imperative that we get those names because we do not want to forget those folks ever. So the loss the families have suffered will never be filled, and we're here to stand with them, and we're here to grieve with them, and we're here to remember them always. So if you know someone who was a 9/11 first responder, so they were either at Ground Zero, they were at the Pentagon in Washington, or they were in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, worked or resided in Westchester County and passed away as a result of a 9/11 related illness, please contact the co-chair of the 9/11 related illnesses Memorial Committee, Matt McCauley. Matt McCauley's number is 914-343-5251. His email address is also on the screen, mccauley at thmllp.com. So we're going to continue to have that information. You can definitely check that out on the website. Again, the memorial is a wonderful tribute for the folks that lost their lives as a result of a 9/11 related illness. The Rising, as we all know, is that memorial for those folks that died on the day of 9/11, but we want to make sure to recognize all of those individuals, and we want to make sure that you get that information to us as soon as possible. Just as a heads up, the 9/11 memorial this year, of course, is 9/11, which is a Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Rising at Kensico Dam in Valhalla. So you'll hear some more of that, but it's really important because to get those folks' names appropriately memorialized on the monument takes a bit of time, so we want to make sure that we get those. We need those names as quickly as possible. Please call our good friend Matt McCauley. As the county executive pointed out earlier when we talked about the golfers on the course this weekend, the heat was tremendous, especially on Sunday. The county executive and I were at Kensico Plaza for celebrating Italian heritage. And as the county executive always points out, we all are Italian on that particular day, but it was hot and Italian as well. But we have a heat advisory for the 7th day in a row, which will be in place till 6 p.m. tonight. But in addition, because we don't have enough weather-related incidents, there's a threat for isolated and scattered severe thunderstorms and flash flooding throughout this afternoon and evening. So again, we always tell people to make sure to keep yourselves in mind that if you're on a parkway that has a water body in its name, it's probably going to flood, and you want to make sure to take extra time. Those flash floods earlier this afternoon, we heard a boomer come through Westchester County here in White Plains, and it was loud. It sounded like an explosion, but it was just thunder, but it was really, really intense. And there was the rainstorm that shortly followed that. So again, please keep that in mind as we walk through this. Please watch with our National Weather Service and keep in mind the things to keep sure you're safe, make sure your gas is filled up in your car, and make sure you have those things like the battery-powered things that are charged up. You have your water in the car because you never know what things can happen. And in the unlikely event that you get involved in one of those severe flash flooding situations, do not get out of your car. Make sure you stand in there, and please do not go through that standing water. If you see standing water, it's time to stop and turn around because you don't know what's under it. So let's keep all that in mind as we get through this particular scenarios. And back to you, George.
Thanks very much, Ken. And I want to reemphasize what Ken has just said. Westchester County manages the Bronx River Parkway. We do not have the similar responsibility for the other parkways. Taconic, Hutch, Cross County, Sawmill are all state-governed roads, although we do police those parkways, and we have extra patrols out there to be helpful if we do get flash flooding. But we directly control the Bronx River Parkway, and we will shut it down like that when we know we have standing water. There are areas, if you've traveled the Bronx River, even once or twice, much less a steady commuter on that road, you know where it collects floods in some of the low-lying areas. And as Ken pointed out, there's a river right next to it. That's why it's named what it is. We will close that road once we see that there's reason to close it. And you must honor that, because we've had many stories of people getting trapped and being in some physical jeopardy, not just they ruin their car, that they themselves may not be able to get out of a high water situation. So please follow the rules, and you'll be safe the following day. The road will dry out. You'll be able to use it in the future. But know in advance, if you get this kind of weather and, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just before rush hour, you'll get a heavy rainstorm. Anybody who knows the tropical environments, if you're in Florida, you get that 4 o'clock rainstorm. It is very intense. Just as you're leaving the place of work, perhaps, or some other location, and you're tempted to try to make your way on that parkway or anything similar. Know your alternative routes. Take Central Avenue. It takes a little longer, but you won't have to detour off of it, or Route 22. Let me just close out by indicating that there are other issues that we're going to be reporting on, perhaps over the course of this week, perhaps before we meet again next Monday, which will be the 1st of August, and we give you an update as we approach the second half of the summer. We will be looking at when we intend to make an announcement on the Westchester Community College budget adopted by the College Board of Trustees and presented to the county for our approval. Approval will be forthcoming by the Board of Legislators. There'll be discussion about it. The progress we're making on the Memorial Field project, that is the latest, biggest capital project. It's taken us a while to get to the point we're at now, but we're very close on that project, and we'll give you an update on that as we go forward. We'll be announcing a new person who will be joining us on the County Police Board, and that person will serve as chair of the police board, and we're very excited to make that announcement. We'll do that sometime this week, if not at some time maybe in the next day or two. And other issues as they arise, we'll certainly communicate with you as we go forward. We appreciate you taking time. We know these are long reports. We don't expect that the vast majority of people actually watch all of the timing of it, or they save it to watch it at another time. But we just want to put it out there for you. You can look at it in pieces. You can reference it if you think it's necessary. But the most important thing is that we are communicating with you. We are telling you straightforwardly what some of the issues are, what's happening, and so that you know, and you can make your own decisions. I know that. I know Ken and the rest of our team knows that people do not live their lives looking at government every step of the day. You have families that you want to raise, children you want to raise, parents that you want to take care of, people that you love that are important to you. The time you spend with them is more important than focusing on county government, perhaps any level of government. You certainly have your avocations. When you have free time, it's not to sit and watch the update from Ken and George about county government. We recognize that. But we want to at least make sure that the information is there for you to see, and that you have an understanding that we are trying, as honestly as we can, to deal with the issue that our level of government is responsible for. And on a personal level, I take it personally. I have twice gone before the voters of this county and asked for this authority. I've been granted that authority twice. It's the only 2 times that I will do that, because we authored and passed a term limit law. I happen to believe in term limits. This position that I hold is term limited. There'll be a certain amount of time that I will be in this position, and then I will leave. And I believe that is as it should be. There should be other people who will have this opportunity. You will make the decision as to who serves in this position. But while I serve in it, to me, it's a very important bond of trust between us. And we need to report to you and to tell you honestly where we are. And if the news is bad, Wilson Woods Pool isn't going to open this year, then it's bad. If the numbers spike up in any of these diseases, then they spike up and we tell you about it. And when the news is good, we tell you that too. We're not afraid to be happy, and we're not afraid to be somber. We'll be whatever it is that's appropriate for the moment. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching. Any of our press friends are welcome to give us a call at 995-2932 to follow up on any of these issues. It is hot outside until those storms break the weather. Be safe, and we'll see you again a week from today for an update at 2 o'clock. Thanks.